this is my hat's going to fly off and my fro will fly freely.
This is a gut punch to anyone who is our age. Claudell Washington, 16 seasons. He wasn't very good. I mean, his best season is 16 homers, 70 RBIs, something like that. He was a fine baseball player. Again, 16 years. But there are certain names, and you just hit on one of them, Oscar Gamble, that if you're of our age, it will hurt. And Twitter is hurting today. There are people of our age where, like, Boog Sciambi's in pain today.
Well, how do you explain this, though? How do you explain this to people who don't know who we're talking about?
And do you have to?
Well, he just passed away.
I heard
He just
that.
passed away.
I heard that.
Really disrespectful.
I heard you.
I just hit you in the face with the trump card right there. He just passed away too soon.
Yeah, I got the context, guys. It's just you're trying to not sound old while sounding older.
Okay, but someone just passed away, and you could show some respect.
Yeah, I mean, come on. It's like UL Washington.
It's really a trump card.
Another name.
Mike, it's not anything you could do with.
No.
I slap you in the face with it like a fencing glove, and you just got to walk away.
I walked into it. I'm sorry.
You
3
do.
minutes of
You do.
explaining who Claudell Washington
he just
was,
died,
and
and it
I
meant
lashed
something to the
out.
old people around
no,
here.
you guys won that. I'm sorry to his family.
Way to urinate
I
on
wanna
a coffin
apologize.
during the
All right.
eulogy, Mike.
Cool.
Way to do
Sorry
that.
for speaking for the audience.
I mean, his life ended moments ago, Mike.
I mean, too soon, dude.
Yes.
16 years is a good career.
Yep, nice run.
How do you manage that one not being very good?
As part of the eulogy, though, I might have just confused Claudell Washington with Gary Matthews. In
How
terms of
dare
afros.
you!
That'd be another name. I tell you right now, Gary Matthews. I mean, I would be crushed if Gary Matthews passed away. I know you don't need to show me.
And I'd be crushed if Gary Matthews Jr. passed
Roy
away.
just winced and laughed at the same.
Gary Matthews.
Roy, did you not catch? Because I think Gary Matthews and Claudell Washington were doing the fro thing, but it might have just been Gary Matthews. And I just killed the wrong guy, which is a $50 fine.
Whoa.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Oh, Dan.
But I'm not sure, though, because I think Claudell Washington also had a fro. You guys need to pull this up for me and find out right now whether I owe $50. I'm too busy looking at horrified faces here that include Roy's. What are you shaking your head no about, Roy?
It was a smaller fro,
Yeah.
but the hat still came off.
Yeah.
It was almost like a crew cut.
Kind of like Alfredo
That's
Amezaga.
not true at all. That's simply not true at all. It was a crew cut.
Roy, help me out.
I'm trying to bail you out here, Dan.
All right, I got to image search this, but I can't because I think I just killed the wrong guy.
It was described accurately. I mean, you're clinging on to. I mean, I wouldn't call it an afro.
I got to look it up. I'll look it up during the break and find out what. You need to be quiet because you've been worse than me in this segment, and I was trying to eulogize Claudell Washington.
Yes, I was objecting to your tribute to Gary Matthews, apparently.
Well, no, the giant glove absolutely belonged to Claudell Washington. The point is that during my youth, with no access to baseball, my first love of 90s baseball began sort of in the 80s with the giant glove of the now departed Claudell Washington, whose name only means something to certain people in our audience, but it really means something to them.
Heck of a job we've done paying our respects.
Not the
You guys should
greatest.
be embarrassed.
No, not the greatest. Not the greatest work by us, but you can understand we're emotional. We're not quite ourselves. There's Stugatz distancing himself from me again with just blurting a guttural burped you.
We will talk to you mañana. This was the Dan Levatar Show on ESPN Radio.
Here at AutoZone, we're all about helping you get what you need to keep life moving. Like for that next oil change. Right now, you can get 5 quarts of Pennzoil Platinum Full Synthetic Motor Oil, an STP Extended Life Oil Filter, and a Monster Energy drink, all for just $33.99. And if you need something fast, you can get it fast your way. Whether it's next day delivery or free same-day pickup, in-store or curbside, the choice is yours. Get in the zone. AutoZone. Restrictions and details at AutoZone.com.
Anyone who builds, remodels, or repairs for a living, we know the way you work has changed. That's why Lowe's is committing today to build new ways to keep you working tomorrow. We are proud to introduce the new Lowe's for Pros job site, powered by Stream, an augmented video chat tool, so you can be there for your customers without actually being there. And the cost to use? Try it free through October 31st at lowesforpros.com/proloyalty. Just one of the reasons why Lowe's is the new home for pros. Services subject to Stream terms. Lowe's loyalty membership required. More terms apply.
For your Gulf Coast Sports Minute, I'm JP. Great news for high school football as well as other sports as Florida Governor Ron DeSantis seems confident we will have a full season. This is so important for our kids, particularly those that are going to be seniors, DeSantis said. They need to be playing. I'm convinced it'll be something that is safe to do. We should absolutely assume a full high school football season. On the heels of that statement, Escambia County School District Superintendent Malcolm Thomas announced that high school student athletes can begin summer conditioning June 15th. In our recruiting spotlight this week, JoJo Blackman, senior wide receiver for the Escambia Gators. Blackman's route running is second to none, and his moves in the open field can be absolutely stunning. The three-star prospect is ranked as the 90th recruit in Florida. Last year, Blackman had 49 receptions for almost 900 yards and 12 touchdowns. He has 11 offers, which include Kentucky, Tennessee, and Troy, just to name a few. If you get a chance to catch him on Friday night this season, you won't be sorry. This young man can flat out ball. That's your Gulf Coast Sports Minute. I'm JP.
The teams, the games, the fans, the local talk. This is ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
I thought I was too old.
I thought I was too young.
I didn't think I had what it takes.
How would I find the time?
I figured I'd get around to it someday.
Besides, it's probably too expensive.
Too difficult.
Too complicated.
Then one day I sat down at the piano.
Drums.
The keyboard.
Guitar.
Bass.
Ukulele.
I went into a music store and tried some percussion.
Tried a clarinet.
A sax.
And I learned a few simple notes.
Simple chords.
Simple rhythms.
Before I knew it,
I could actually play a song.
A pretty simple one, but I did it. Me. I couldn't believe it.
why make excuses when you can make music?
Why wait?
Just play.
This message brought to you by the NAM Foundation.
Football season never ends on Talk Football with Coach K.
Stidham is tearing it up at New England. He may well be the incumbent to Tom Brady there.
Former head coach of the Buffalo Bills, Coach K brings his expertise as he breaks down the game, the players, the coaches, and the front office. Plus, high-profile interviews from the biggest names in football. Talk Football with Coach K every weekday from noon till 1 on ESPN Pensacola 1330 FM 99.1.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing, but not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. This breaks my heart, and it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and gives it to families in need. To help, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
For your ESPN Pensacola Ridiculous Facts, I'm JP. A race car with a wood-burning engine finished third in the 1927 Indianapolis 500. According to Major League Baseball rulebook, baseball games are to last 9 innings or 2 1/2 hours, whichever comes first. Kite flying is a professional sport in Thailand, yet another sport I wouldn't be good at. And the Stanley Cup was originally 2 stories tall, but was deemed too difficult to transport. Yeah, I can see where that could be a problem. That's your ESPN Pensacola Ridiculous Facts. I'm JP.
This is ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM and 99.1 FM, the only local station that talks sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. From Gullick and Wingo to the Sports Drive with Chad Brillante. Plus talk football with Coach K at noon, sports call every Saturday. If you'd like to partner with us as an advertiser or a promotional partner, just give us a call at 262-6000.
You're listening to ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. All sports, all the time. WEBY, Milton, Pensacola.
The following has been produced by Talk Football LLC. Former Florida Gators quarterback, NFL quarterback, and NFL head coach. Coach K. Stevenson has a resume second to none, and now he's sharing his insider information with you. Talk Football with Coach K starts right now on ESPN Pensacola.
Welcome into Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you alongside former NFL head coach K. Stevenson. On this Wednesday afternoon, hope you're doing well, staying safe. Of course, continuing to practice social distancing at this time. And on that note, as we always start off our show, we'll continue to do it this way. It's something that needs to be said. We want to thank our first responders and healthcare workers at this time. Look, regardless of what's going on with COVID-19, we thank you so much. I think it goes, once again, without saying. Being a military town, we're so proud of our military here. We're so thankful for our first responders and healthcare workers as well. It's so important, and one thing to remember is you don't really need them until you need them, and then it's too late. I think it's something that we need to recognize them, not just with this. I think throughout this, it's so important, and we thank them so much for what they do, and we thank the community for supporting them as well. Listen, on that note, we also want to thank grocery store employees, truck drivers, all the essential workers out there. Maybe you were a restaurant that was open during this time. You were allowed to be open. We appreciate it. We appreciate the community stepping up, from food drives to everything. We thank you, but we thank you, the essential workers out there, just making lives a little more normal, if we can even say normal at this time. But nonetheless, we got some good signs. Look, things are opening back up. Beaches are opening back up. Good news. I'm so proud of our community, proud to say that I am from Pensacola. And you know what, Coach, I know you feel the same way, but how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing well, and I certainly feel the same way. And just an added note, JP, is in this time when the very people who keep us safe, who rush into danger without thinking about themselves, are really being sought upon. Terrible things being said, and so on. And this is a time to get behind our first responders. We really all need to get behind them and show support and tell them that we support them. So anyway, having said that, we can move on, but I did want to shoot that out as a part of our show today.
Absolutely, Coach. I think that's a very important. It's important to not a couple things, not let a couple bad apples spoil the entire bunch. Remember, not everybody's the same. We live in the greatest country in the world, and that goes without saying. You just ask anybody, but it's very important that these people put themselves on the lines each and every day for us. And look, it's a tough time right now, but I sure hope, because remember, the media, I said this the other day, Coach, and we'll move on from this. I think this is very important, that the media wants divide, because where there's divide, then there's a story, then there's all the drama that goes into this. And don't fall into the media's trap with this. That's why here on Talk Football, we try to give you football news. We stick to it. We don't want to bring politics and everything that comes in it. We want to talk football with you, just to separate what's going on right now. Because look, you can turn on, whether you watch CNN, Fox News, or whatever, you can get all that you want, but be educated, be smart, and don't let the media trick you or media think for you. Think for yourself. There's a ton of great people here in Pensacola and all over this world. Like I said, don't let a few bad apples spoil the entire bunch. And Coach, look, we're getting some news here. Now, of course, this is news, but it's not news. I think every other conference has said this, and I think it's important to look at it from SEC Media Days. They announced finally their final plans. Usually, we talk about them having it at the hotel there, the nice hotel in Atlanta. Not going to happen. They're going to do it virtually. No surprise here. But, once again, we're moving forward. I think you take this however you want. I'm taking it as a positive, listen, we're continuing to step towards college football. Now, they were originally scheduled for July 13th through the 16th. Like I said, at the hotel there, but they are going to do it virtually. And look, Coach, when you look at this, SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey said in a statement, we look forward to returning to our traditional media days format in 2021. Just right now, it's not the time to do this. Coach, I know this is really not a story necessarily. It's just some information, but any surprise here?
No, not really. I think it's the safe thing to do, certainly. And, what would be a response if they all showed up in Atlanta as usual and had a couple of people leave there positive for whatever reason? That would have been a major problem. So anyway, they're doing the same thing, and it's gonna. You basically get the same information you would if you were there in person. So yeah, I have no problem with it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the right thing to do right now, moving forward. And who knows what would happen if something people showed up and Well, we'll see. But regardless, it's going to be virtual. Don't worry about that. We're talking about college football. And, Coach, another Alabama receiver here. Now, this is interesting. Once again, this is a guy that wasn't a factor last year. You know, you're not losing Jalen Waddle or one of those guys, but it's another guy. We continue to see this, and we see it more, Coach. I think now it's more in the media because there's not a whole lot going on outside of news like this. But Jadarius Townsend has entered the NCAA portal, transfer portal there from Alabama. Look, we just talked about a receiver yesterday, of course, going over to Mississippi State. And, look, I think it's important. He said, look, he's going to miss all the guys there. Hopefully they'll meet again. But he's going to use his last 2 years of eligibility elsewhere. He's already graduated, so he can go play immediately. He worked with the running backs, wide receivers, and defensive backs during his 3 seasons. He played 17 total games. I think it's important. This is a guy, you know what, he's a good guy, but, you know, we hope for the best for him. But I think it's more along the lines of this guy was a 4-star recruit in 2017. We see a lot of big-time recruits go to Alabama. It's tough to play at Alabama because, once again, day in and day out, they're one of the top 5 teams in recruiting each and every year, much like some of the big dogs in the SEC. But Alabama's already lost 5 players to the transfer portal this offseason, including running back Jerome Ford, who's now at Cincinnati, offensive tackle Scott Lashley, who went to Mississippi State, cornerback Nigel Knott, who's at East Carolina, quarterback Talia Tungavaloa, who went to Maryland, and now wide receiver Tyrell Shavers, we talked about yesterday in Mississippi State. And it's important to remember, Coach, Scooby Carter, Giles Amos, and Markel Benton are also in the portal right now. When you look at this, Coach, I'm not scared. Reading the message boards, a lot of people are kind of like, oh, what's happening? Coach, I'm not worried. I think this happens every year. I just think that this is, look, it's important. Guys want to play, rightfully so, but this is more news now just for the sole fact that there's not a whole lot going on.
Well, yeah, and don't you know for sure that these guys are talking amongst themselves. You had the receiver who transferred to Mississippi State, and you don't think he's talking to other receivers that aren't playing in Alabama. And they're all buddies. They've been in the same meeting rooms, in the same dressing room, and so on. So they talk, and it's not surprising to have someone who's not going to play and feels that they should play, they could play somewhere else, transfer. So I'm not surprised at it. I'm really not, and it's not. It has nothing to do with Alabama, except for the fact that they can't get on the field there. There's too much talent. So that's the problem, and it's a good problem to have for Alabama. But it just goes to show you how much talent is stacked up there and what their depth is.
Yeah, it's important. You know, like I said, we talk about the coach with Kirby Smart and those guys. We're seeing Dan Mullen do that as well. Teams that just continue to revamp. Clemson, Ohio State every year. You're going to have this happen. Look, guys, you know, they're going to want to play, obviously. They know they can go play other places. And Mississippi State, look, they've done a good job getting some Alabama players now. We'll see what happens with Townsend, though. But, Coach, I think it's important, staying on the Alabama subject here. Feinbaum warns that time is running out for Nick Saban to win another national championship at Alabama. Now, we talk about 4 programs in LSU, Ohio State, Alabama, and Clemson. They've won national championships in the college football playoff era. We even talk about Florida State. We can't forget them. But, look, it's the programs we for the past few years, up until, well, lately, of course, it was the Crimson Tide and the Clemson Tigers. That's who we talked about. They were just dominant for so many years. Coach, when you look at these other teams, we see Georgia stepping up. They haven't taken that next step yet. We're seeing LSU and what they did last year. We're seeing how good Ohio State is. We're seeing Clemson just continuing to be Clemson each and every year. We're wondering, you know, is Florida? Florida seems to be a step above of what they used to be when they were winning 10 games a year back in the day. Coach, when you look at this, now he goes on to say, look, he doesn't want this to sound blasphemous, but time's running out. And it's been 2 years since Saban won a national championship, and that's a long time. And he hasn't gone that long in Alabama since, well, early on in his career. Of course, he did forget about, I believe, Florida State winning the 2013 BCS championship and Ohio winning the one in 2014. But nonetheless, Coach, are you worried about Saban here? And do you agree with Paul Feinbaum that time is running out?
No, I think he's got a point to some extent. I think the point that he should be making, rather than saying Alabama's running out of time, I don't buy that argument. Other teams are getting better. to the extent that they're getting better than Alabama, I don't buy that. Yes, they're getting better, but who's to say? Certainly, Paul Feinbaum is not the one to say that they're getting better than Alabama. It just means the competition. There's more stiff competition out there, but who can handle it better than Nick Saban, and who can handle it better as a team than one stacked with talent like Alabama? So, no, I don't buy that. I think if time is running out with Saban winning the national championship, him personally, I think it would be because he's tired of the state of affairs that football is in at this point, and he may decide to just get out of it. But I don't see that happening in the near future, but it could. I wouldn't put it past Saban to do that. So I think that's a big reason that would take him totally out of the picture would be if he decides to give up football.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and I think Saban's the type of guy that he'll see the writing on the wall. He'll know, and when he's ready, he's going to leave. He's not a guy that's going to drag it on either. So if Saban felt like he was at his end here, I don't think he would be there. But regardless, Coach, moving on to the NFL side of things here, it's interesting because, listen, we talk about Jameis Winston and going to New Orleans. It seemed by his words, now, not his actions yet. We'll see what happens when all this comes about. But by his words, he seemed very humble. He realized that, listen, with Tom Brady coming in Tampa, he knew his time was up. And he took a job for a very, very, about bottom-tier contract, of course, to be the third-string quarterback in New Orleans. I'm sorry if you like Jameis as your second string. I think Taysom Hill's the guy. But obviously, Taysom will be used in other ways. But when you look at it, I think Jameis seemed like he was on the right track to be able to sit back and finally just learn. Ever since he came in the league, he was playing immediately. Didn't get a chance, like some quarterbacks, like Aaron Rodgers and stuff, to sit back and learn the systems and learn the game. He got thrown in there. And look, he's had up and down career, Coach. He's shown positive signs. I think that's important when you look at Jameis Winston. He's shown that he can be good, but at the same time, then he turns around and he throws 4 or 5 interceptions. And, Coach, it's interesting here because Jameis went on to say a couple things that makes you scratch your head. Now, I do want to say this before I get into this other part. He said, my entire life I've been a winner, from Little League football to middle school, high school, college. Obviously, the NFL is a little more difficult, but I've been a winner. I don't want to be viewed as a loser. It's going to come. It's going to happen. This is something I've been fighting for my entire life to build up to this. And he said, do I feel like I'm better than a lot of starting quarterbacks in this league? He said, I do, but God has a plan that I haven't even thought of yet. I have to respect this game first, and respect is earned. I love that. I do. And, Coach, I don't really have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with him thinking he's better than a lot of the starting quarterbacks because there's a mindset there. But where I have a problem is, he goes on to say, I know what I'm worth, and I know day in and day out, without publicly coming in and saying it, that historically, I want to make that clear. This is what his words, not mine, that historically I'm one of the best quarterbacks to play the game. Now, Coach, look, he said without publicly coming in and saying it, he's now publicly come out and said it. And he's put it out there for people. Coach, look, I'm all on board with everything else he said, but to say historically he's one of the best quarterbacks to play the game, I scratch my head because, look, I know stats don't tell the entire story, but even if you want to go to win-loss record, you want to go to other things, I'm looking at it. Historically, I don't understand what in the world's going on.
Well, I'm a little taken back here by that, by what you just said. So I have to think about it in a minute. I think it's ridiculous for anybody to say that, and in such a game, I really put it in perspective here. You're going into a locker room with other alpha males, and you're going to tell them you're the best of all times. I'll tell you what, that takes something above and beyond. Now, I agree with you. A quarterback's got to have confidence in himself, and to say that he feels like he's better than a number of quarterbacks, that's okay. He needs to. He needs to feel that way. But to say what he said, I really, really think that is ridiculous for him to say. I don't think he gave as much thought, or either he's incapable of getting that message, because that's going to create problems for him. It's just totally going to create problems, and he doesn't need that, especially him. He really doesn't need that at this time. So, well, that's what he's done now. He's got to live with it.
Well, when you look at it, Coach, even from when he came in the league, and I go, if you want to talk about win-loss, I'll read his years in the NFL: 6-10. This is with him at quarterback, not somebody else. 6-10, 9-7, 3-10, 3-6, and 7-9. And then if you want to look at the stats, well, he averages, he's 22 touchdowns first year, 28, then 19, 19, and 33 last year, which 33 is great. That's the highest he's had. He threw for the most yards, for over 5,000 yards. But let's look at the interceptions. 15 this first year, 18, 11, 14, and 30. Coach, when you look at the stats here, there's nothing out there that really stands out as being historically one of the greatest, except he has a record there for the interceptions of the 30. But I think it's important too, just to remember this guy also has a fumbling issue. And Coach, when I look at it, maybe I'm wrong. I want to get your take on this. I think with New Orleans right now, I don't even think that even if Drew Brees was to go out, do you think that Jameis would be the backup quarterback and they would keep Taysom Hill doing the same thing there, or would Taysom take the majority of the quarterback snaps?
I think what their MO is just like last year. They had the young quarterback there to back up Brees, and when Brees was unable to play, I think for 4 or 5 games there, he played and played well for him, but he was taking all of the, here's what you got to remember too, that people aren't aware of. There are only so many snaps that you get at practice. Anybody gets. The first team gets the majority of them, and then the second team gets what they can, and then third team people get nothing. They don't get any. Because you don't have time. There's not enough time in practice. You can't just stay out there forever. Usually you cut your practices down to an hour 45, and there's just not enough time. You got service offense and defense and special teams. It's not enough time a day. So what happens is you have to have a second quarterback who's getting those second team snaps. Now Tyson Hill is getting snaps with both first and second team with the job that he is called on to do, which is everything from running back to receiver to tight end to quasi-tight end to movement type plays, any number of things that he does, and special teams. So he does not have the time to take all of the second team quarterback reps, which you're going to need. The second team quarterback needs every one of those to be ready to play that week. There's not enough time to do 3 of them. So what he's got that other quarterback there for is to just concentrate on the quarterback position. He's not worried about the other positions other than knowing what they do. Obviously, you have to know from a quarterback, but having to work on them and run through it, no. You need somebody who is concentrating on being the backup quarterback for that week. So that's why he's got the 3 of them there. And really, Tyson Hill right now would be more of an emergency type quarterback, or he's going to have special plays during the year where he would line up at the quarterback position to do any number of things. So if that makes sense to you, that's why he has to have the quarterback situation the way it is, because you got to have a guy getting ready in case Brees goes down.
I think that's well said, Coach, because a lot of the questions, like I said, is people are even wondering, will Jameis take snaps, even if something happens to Drew Brees? And, that you look, you hit the nail on the head there. I think it's perfect because that's a perfect explanation, because a lot of people are wondering that question and what's going to happen. As for Jameis, look, like we said, it's important that a quarterback has that mentality, but at the same time, especially now more than ever, be very careful with your words because that historically speaking, that's not the route he needs to go. But listen, Coach, we got to go to a break. When we come back, Bruce Arians talking about something he may do, to keep his team on track to win this season, and Warren Moon talking about Tom Brady and Drew Brees and how age may hit them a little bit faster than what they think, and we'll get into the top 5 defenses in the NFL. All that and more when we come back right here on Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck Bentley, that was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola.
Sometimes your bank, your family, and your friends love you, but they don't have the money to help you. Sometimes we have chances to make money, but the old saying, you've got to have money to make money, rings true. At Pensacola Specialty Pond, we can help. If you have trucks, heavy equipment, airplanes, boats, jet skis, anything with value, Pensacola Specialty Pond can loan you that short-term money you need. No credit checks, and at Pensacola Specialty Pond, you're going to find the money and the discretion you need.
Now at 6428 Pensacola Boulevard, north of Car City. Call 432-9050, 432-9050.
Pensacola's own NFL Hall of Famer Emmitt Smith has some tips for us during this time.
This fight is up to all of us to try to help bend that curve. It's going to take teamwork. It's going to take us to stay committed, stay focused, and stay dedicated to the mission at hand, and that is to keep everyone safe. So be encouraging. Find some support. Find someone to talk to every day to encourage them to keep on continuing in this fight. And we will beat this pandemic.
For 30 years, Thomas Home Corporation has proudly helped families build their ultimate dream home. If you're looking to customize your home, we are currently building throughout Escambia, Santa Rosa, and Okaloosa counties, and we can either build your home in one of our subdivisions or even on your own lot. Our team works with you to guide you through each step and decision in the process. Builder of the 2019 American Dream Home and Builder of the Year, Thomas Homes Corporation has built quality homes at an affordable price since 1990. Begin the process today and become one of our proud homeowners at thomashomescorp.com.
There's only one name in town when it comes to afternoon local sports talk. The Sports Drive with Chad Brilliante.
Some athletes don't want to be given... nobody does. No, look, when you play with your pops as it gets older, one of the most embarrassing things, my daughter's 3, I just slam it right in her face right at the play school hoop. Like right there, like I'm Zion Williamson.
The games, the players, the fans. ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
You can watch Coach K talk football live right now on our YouTube channel at ESPN Pensacola 1330.
Welcome back to Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you alongside former NFL head coach Kay Stevenson on this Wednesday afternoon. Hope you're doing well. We're doing the best we can here, talking some football with you. Coach, when we talk about a couple things here, now I do want to get to the defenses in just a minute, but a couple things that were said. Now, this is interesting enough because I want to ask you, Coach, from what you're hearing, from your sources as well. Look, we know you have a lot of friends, a lot of coaches that are in the NFL right now as well. But Bruce Arians came out and said he is thinking about whether to keep a quarterback away from the facility. Now, we know Tom Brady is the quarterback there, but he's going to have his backup quarterback with Tom Brady, obviously, but to keep a guy away from the facility. And what that means now, does it mean during workouts? He talks about, of course, during the games and, getting close to game time there. He's thinking about ways right now to be able to put his team in the best position in case something happens where, obviously, God forbid, somebody gets the coronavirus during this, that it shuts the team down. Coach, when you look at this, obviously the quarterback, health-wise, is not the most important guy. Everybody is very important in this. But to keep a team going here at the quarterback position, we know you have to have a quarterback, obviously. Do you think that more teams are pondering this right now? What's your take on this of whether to keep a quarterback away from the facility?
I think it's going to be difficult to do that, not have him ready to play. There would be some degree of safety involved there by keeping a quarterback away from everybody, working with him. You'd have to work with him during the week virtually, and then films of practice or tape of practice each day and everything that they're looking at. So that would be tough to do. But I suppose from a safety standpoint, if you don't have a quarterback, you can't play. You can't take a guy from another position and put him in there at quarterback and expect to be able to win in the National Football League. It won't happen. So having said that, I could see where maybe they take a quarterback that they kind of like, and they keep him away from everybody and work with him like I talked about, just to make sure that if something happened, they could call him in and be assured that he would not be subject to the virus at that point. So that's the only reason I could see them doing it. But, well, that's really being safe to the nth degree.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's going to be interesting just because that's one thing that people talk about, in the NFL especially, is what do you do when a guy gets, what if with the testing, and like I said, God forbid, of course, we don't hope anybody gets this, but Tom Brady gets it, you find out a day or two before the game. Like, it changes everything here, and then you have to test everybody's going to be tested. We need to understand that. And I think it's going to happen. There's going to be some changes and things like, I just think it's inevitable that most likely somebody is going to be out of the starting lineup that we thought before the start. Now, is it going to be a quarterback? I think there's going to be special precautions, obviously, as there already is in the facilities now. But, Coach, staying on the NFL side of things here, Hall of Fame quarterback Warren Moon, look, he was 44 years old when he made his last NFL start. So he said he's one of the few people that has experienced what Tom Brady and Drew Brees are doing right now, playing quarterback into their 40s. And he said he has some bad news for Brady and Brees, that Father Time will catch up faster than what they think. He said that, look, he can see a deterioration in the arm between the strength in the arm between Tom Brady and Drew Brees, and it's the same deterioration that he himself suffered from the end of his career. And he goes, look, I can see it, especially later in the season. You see with Drew Brees and some of the other quarterbacks, their arms don't have the same pop at the end of the season that they had earlier in the year. It has to do with their age, and that's something that I started to see in my career when I got older, that I didn't have the same pop in my arm. A lot of it has to do with your legs because you've just become fatigued over the course of a whole season. Coach, he goes on to talk about Tom Brady and Drew Brees and just kind of breaks down what he saw. Look, you've coached quarterbacks. You've been a quarterback. Coach, you've done it all. Do you agree or disagree with these statements that Warren Moon has made about these two guys?
Well, it's interesting. There's some degree, quite a bit of degree of truth in what he's saying, but it's not totally relatable from him to what they're doing today, in particular Brady and the regiment that he's going through and what he's doing to take care of himself. I have looked at, Brady, the only reason Brady didn't maybe look to be at the very top of his game this last year is because he had no receivers, for crying out loud. what are you going to do when nobody can get open down the field? So you have to consider that. Now, Drew Brees, I will tell you, at the end of the year with Brees, I did notice that maybe some of his throws down the field didn't quite hit the mark, or it looked like they faded a little bit before they got there. So there may be some lack of strength there that Brees was having near the end of the year. I did not see that with Brady. And I'm telling you, I watched it pretty close because I knew this was going to be a big discussion point following last season. I don't think that Brady is. I mean, if you put it on measurable, it's got to be. If you're saying that is the case, then what are the measurables? What's the metric there that you're using? Is it on a scale of 1 to 10? He's 5 or 6. No, I think if I put it on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say Brady's still up near the top of that scale, and Brees may be getting closer to the middle of the pack, the scale. But anyway, I think it's a little off, and we're going to see this year. We're certainly going to see quite a bit here coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, I agree with that, and you're right. It's interesting to see what's going to happen. But Coach, once again, staying here, like we talk about the defenses, the top 5 defenses, and I think it goes without saying. Number 1 on the list here. Now, Coach, I don't think that either me or you disagrees with this. The 49ers. And, look, the 49ers bringing Quan Alexander back. Nick Bosa's a year older. We saw how dominant he was. They found a way to keep Eric Armstead. He had 10 sacks last year, and Jimmy Ward. They had to let go of DeForest Buckner, but I think it's important to look at the draft in the way that they added Javon Kinlaw to kind of fill that position there. The young man out of South Carolina. We know how dominant he can be. And look, the defensive coordinator, I love what Robert Saleh does. I think he is a great coordinator, done a great job for that team, solidifying all this talent. We've seen teams have talent, and they can't put it all together. Coach, this is a super athletic group. I mean, when you look at it, you can go back and look at the Fred Warner and those guys. Kinlaw, like I said, Kinlaw I think is the important factor here. What a great ad for them. But not only that, though, Richard Sherman seems to be the weakness. And look, I'm not the biggest Richard Sherman fan, but I think he's a big reason that cost him in that game. But nonetheless, Coach, when Richard Sherman is one of your worst players on defense, I think your defense is pretty good. And this is a defense that I think will be rock and ready to roll this year.
I agree with you. I like San Francisco defense, and I agree with you about Sherman. I mean, I think he would probably be by far the weakest point in the position you can't be weak in. That's where you get killed. The only thing I would say about the 49er defense is, my goodness, when you're up by 10 points in the fourth quarter and you can't stop anybody and let them go down and score 2, that's inexcusable. You cannot have that, and you can't consider yourself a great defense, JP, if you can't rise to the occasion in the biggest game of them all, the Super Bowl, and make a stop there. Your defense has to. That's why we talk about how important it is to be good defensively and play big defensively, and that's a great example. And it did not happen. So that's the only thing that I would count a big strike on with San Francisco defense. They should have made a stop there and won that ball game.
Yeah, the play there to Tyreek Hill, unacceptable, especially when you're talking about in the Super Bowl of all times. And that's a play that will haunt them. And, look, it's going to be interesting because can they get back to the Super Bowl? Well, all odds are saying yes. When you look at this team coming back, Coach, offensively we know they're going to be good again, of course, but that defense led that team, did a great job. And then Jimmy G, and I know we're talking defense here, but I think Jimmy G is going to have a great year. especially for all the people that are the naysayers out there. This is a really good team top to bottom with Shanahan. But you're right. It comes down to, you know what, they had an opportunity to win that Super Bowl being up 10, Coach. They didn't get it done. And you know what, if you want to be the best, you got to go out there and show up in moments like that. But, look, Coach, I want to go to a quick break and come back so we have plenty of time to talk about the rest of these teams in this list. When we come back, we'll finish up our list of top 5 defenses right here in the NFL. All that and more. We'll talk a little bit of college football as well, maybe some Notre Dame news. We'll talk about that when we come back right here on Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck Bentley, that was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola.
Have you fallen behind on your mortgage payments? The National Foundation for Credit Counseling is a nonprofit organization that has helped consumers in situations just like yours for more than 60 years. Our certified housing specialists will work with you to review your finances and create a custom plan that's right for your specific situation. NFCC member agencies provide free and affordable help and meet U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development standards. Call 866-687-6322 or visit mortgagehelpnow.org.
Hi, I'm Matt Kenseth. You don't have to be a race car driver to know that life can be full of drama. Some of it you can't control, like mechanical issues, high winds, and rain delays. But there's some drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org.
You just need to take that first step and find free classes near you and leave the drama for the racetrack.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ed Council.
What's up, Chad here from the Sports Drive. Well, no sports to talk about. March Madness canceled, every major sport, so maybe you get to spend some more time around your family. Oh, what? Not supposed to touch anybody? Well, just go home and watch Price is Right. But if you are older, you have a better chance of getting it. Right, Mike Gundy? Oh, 40? You should be all right. And he won't be broadcasting sports, but one guy that feels the same way we all do with no sports, probably Joe Buck.
Oh, gosh. Oh, man. Oh, my goodness.
Sports Drive 5 to 7 with no sports.
This is Davis Allen from Sports Call with Davis and Justin, and you're listening to Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
Welcome back to Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you, alongside former NFL head coach Kay Stevenson on this Wednesday afternoon. Hope you're doing well. Appreciate you tuning in with us. We're talking some football with you as always. Coach, I want to finish our list here. I know we talked about top 5 defenses. Of course, number 1 topping the list here, no surprise, the 49ers. Number 2 right here. This is a team that we've talked about plenty. And look, if they don't get it figured out offensively, time is running out because this defense is the real deal. And it's Chicago Bears. Listen, the talent remains there. The core of the unit is getting older. Akeem Hicks is getting up to 30. Danny Trevathan is now 30. Khalil Mack is 29. Kyle Fuller's 28. Look, they're getting closer to the back end of their primes. While Eddie Jackson, Eddie Goldman, they're in the heart of theirs. They added a 30-year-old Robert Quinn to play a prime role, which I think that whole system fits in perfectly. Coach, this is a very proud group, and I think Surely. I mean, we saw how good they are, obviously, playing in a tough division as well. But, Coach, I think it's not as questioned as how good this defense is more along the lines of they've got to figure out the offense because time is running out in Chicago.
Yeah, you're so right. You're right on the money there. They are a first-class NFL defense. Really, really hard for them to keep that momentum up and their positivity overall up when their offense is just terrible, has been terrible. They've got to find a way, and I think that's what they're looking at with Foles. They find a way to keep the ball in their hands offensively as much as they can, get as many first downs as they possibly can, keep their defense off the field. If they can do that, they're going to make their defense, give the defense a chance to catch their breath and be better. Along with that, they've got to find a way to put some points on the board. They don't have to put as many points as other teams, obviously, but they've got to be able to score when the opportunity presents itself, and they've got to play well on special teams. All those things will help that defense, but they're good defensively. And I would certainly agree that the ranking defenses, they probably got to be number 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Coach, when you look at that team, once again, it's going to be interesting to see. We saw the Chicago's trying to make bringing Foles in. Will he be the answer? I think so. I just don't think – I think time is – they're giving up on Mitchell Trubisky. They're going to give him, I guess, obviously one last shot here. But Nick Foles, they took on the contract. So for people to say, well, he's a backup, I don't know if that's the whole thought process. We'll see, though. It's going to be interesting. For Chicago, look, at least your starting looks like to move forward, but nonetheless, that defense is getting older. Coach, at number 3 on this list, a little surprising. When you really break it down, I wouldn't have them number 3 on this list, but you know what? This is a good defense nonetheless. And, well, it's the Chargers. And when you look at the Chargers, we know they got freakish talents like Joey Bosa. The Bosa brothers are fantastic. But Joey Bosa and Derwin James, we know how good they are. They have proven veterans like Melvin Ingram and Casey Hayward. You're injecting a potential star at linebacker when you get, the Oklahoma linebacker there in Kenneth Murray. Going to be interesting to see how he plays. I think he's a great star. He's about the only guy that could play defense on that Oklahoma defense. Sorry, Sooner fans, but it's true. Health is always the question with this group, Coach. We've seen them go be absolutely fantastic, and then they lose a couple guys here, and it just turns to mush, really. When you look at it, they're in a tough division. I think that goes without saying when you talk about the Chiefs, and now the Broncos have revamped that offense. What are the Raiders going to look like? But nonetheless, Coach, the Chargers, I know there's a lot of upside here. Don't know if I would put them at 3, but I definitely would say they're a pretty good defense.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I don't know that I would put them at 3. I really don't. I think that they played well in spurts last year. Do they have enough to go through a season and play the way you have to play, especially in that division? Right now with the firepower that's been added there, exists and then added as well, it's going to be tough. No, I would not put San Diego 3rd. I really wouldn't. I mean, not San Diego, the Chargers.
Coach, I had to stop myself too. Okay, I still think of them the San Diego Chargers. But Coach, looking at number 4 on this list, this is a team that a lot of people talk about offensively. What are they going to look like defensively? A pretty good team, the Ravens. Baltimore Ravens, of course, they had a tough month to start last season by their standards, but tightened it up once they got their experienced middle linebacker in Josh Bynes in to fill the void left by C.J. Mosley. This year, well, Josh Bynes is gone, and they could be starting 2 rookie backers. The good news is the secondary is off the charts, and the front should be, fearsome. Coach, when you look at their draft, I think it's important just to look at the guys that they picked up, and they did a good job. I'm not going to say no on this, but interesting enough, once again, everybody talks about Lamar Jackson in that offense, and I think the defense is pretty good. Now, Patrick Queen was the guy they picked up out of LSU, and a lot of people like this guy. I'm not sold on him. I know a lot of people will give me dirty looks for that. I'm not sold on Patrick Queen, especially jumping right in to be the starter. But we know Matthew Judon, Calais Campbell, and those guys, Derek Wolfe, they're back. We know, when you look at it, L.J. Fort may have to be the other starting backer. Coach, Earl Thomas in the secondary, Marcus Peters. Marcus Peters is shown good signs and bad signs. Earl Thomas is getting up there in age a little bit. Coach, I don't know. I think this Ravens team is definitely hyped up, but that defense, how good do you think they're going to be this year?
Well, let's look at why they are rated there. Last year they had a good year defensively, and I think there's carryover because historically they've had a good defense, no doubt about that. But when you look at the rushing game that they had from their quarterback and the backs, the offensive rushes and rushing yardage, what is that doing? That's keeping that defense over there resting. They're not in the ball game. So that's one of the reasons that they played as well as they did last year. Now, if people start slowing that down, that's one thing that's going to hurt them. And they've got a couple of guys over there that are getting on up there from a defensive standpoint. And like you say, with the two rookies, that's going to be at least take some time before they can reach that point that they're totally satisfied with them, I think. So there's some big ifs there with that defense in Baltimore.
Yeah, and it's two rookies starting an inside linebacker. I think that's even more important as well. The guy's going to be making a lot of calls. I think, they're going to have to grow up quick. And, there's a good group around them. I think you're right, Coach. There is some carryover. And when we think about the Baltimore Ravens, we think about the old Ray Lewis and how dominant those guys were, Ed Reed, all those guys. But it's a little bit different squad now, and the offense is a little bit different as well. But you know what? It's a good defense. Interesting to see how it's going to play out because if you don't think starting rookie linebackers is a risk, well, it could be their downfall this year just because of playing that inside linebacker position. But nonetheless, Coach, final team on our list here. Look, when we talk about the Steelers, this is a team that, and I'll get your take on this once we talk about the defense a little bit, but a lot of people think that their time is running out. Big Ben is getting older. How much longer does Big Ben have with all the injuries that he's faced? And we saw the quarterbacks that are well behind him, and it's not going to necessarily take you to the playoffs, even though as bad as the quarterback position was, they almost made the playoffs last year, and a lot was to say well, you know what? It goes down to that defense. And look, Stephon Tuitt, Dan McCullers, those guys, Cameron Hayward continues to just be so dominant. T.J. Watt, we always talk about the other Watt brother, but T.J. Watt has been phenomenal for those guys, flying all over the field. Devin Bush, Bud Dupree. Coach, when you look at this guys, and they traded to get Minkah Fitzpatrick in that secondary last year from the Dolphins, and it turned out great. They were a quarterback away last year, the Steelers were. I'm not saying to be Super Bowl champions, but to make the playoffs because they were one game away already, Coach. When you look at this Steelers defense, though, these guys are dominant. The only tough thing, once again, playing in a tough division, they have stood the test of time so far. But, Coach, this defense, I think they're for real, and I think this could be the Steelers to be a team if, once again, we've talked about it, if Big Ben can stay healthy, this is a Steelers team to look out for.
Yeah, I would agree with you, but, the defense really played well last year, considering that their offense was not very potent offensively. They should be a little better offensively, and if they haven't deteriorated too much with their defense, which I don't think they have, they're a good football team, good defense, and should even be a little bit better with Roethlisberger in there. That leads me to one other thing when we're talking about defenses here. Not listed on these defenses is New England. Played extremely well defensively and last year, and probably through the draft now have more talent and speed than they've ever had on defense. And with Belichick, they're going to be right in the race there to be one of the top defenses. And the other one now, keep in mind, there's some circumstances surrounding this, but what happened in the last 6-7 games of the year last year? Maybe one of the best defenses in the league was that Tampa Bay defense that grew during the course of the season. Now, add to that, they have momentum. They have experience. And now they got Tom Brady at quarterback, who's going to keep them off the field a lot longer than they've ever been on the field. That defense is going to get pretty good as well. So I just throw it out, food for thought, even though you wouldn't like them there right now. But if you look at what could probably happen this year, don't count them out as being a top defense as well.
Yeah, Coach, that's such a great point because, we talk about that. Think about what Tampa, and people scoff at the statement you just made there, but it goes back to the interceptions and fumbles and how many times they were put, inside their own 20 there. It's tough for a defense like this, a good young defense, and they've got veterans where they need veterans. That defensive line is nasty. Levante David, a linebacker, is going to be phenomenal for them. Again, they brought a lot of guys back. And once again, you talk about the offense getting better. And it's not just the offense getting better. The mindset of that team, they don't look at themselves as just the same old Tampa Bay team will try to make the playoffs. This team, their eyes are on the Super Bowl. It's almost boom or bust for them. That's dangerous when you look at how good those guys have played before. It just brings a different mindset in that locker room. And I think it's a great point that you mentioned Tampa Bay. And once again, the New England Patriots. People forget about them. I just saw, Coach, that Jarrett Stidham is rated the worst starting quarterback in the NFL, and I laugh at that. And the reason I laugh at that is because, you know what? I don't think a whole lot of people know a ton about him, and I think that's perfect. I think that people are saying Belichick is in over his head. I don't think Belichick's ever been in over his head. He is always 3, 4 to 6 moves ahead of you on the chessboard. So, what? I'm not going to count them out.
No, we'll see what happens at the end of the year. There are going to be some people eating crow there. So, anyway, I know we got another break coming up here, so hopefully we'll get back to it here in just a couple of minutes.
Absolutely, Coach. When we come back, we're going to talk a little Notre Dame, man. How good is good enough for Notre Dame? They've made it so close so many times, but haven't been able to get over that hump in quite a while. We'll talk a little bit about them, all that and more when we come back right here on Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
There's only one place in town for the lowest prices and greatest selection of firearms. Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range. Visit our fully stocked Gun Pro shop for new and used firearms, accessories, and ammunition. Check out the Indoor Shooting Range. We offer rentals on guns, including fully automatic machine guns and silencers. Ladies, this is the safe place to learn how to use a gun. Plus, Tuesday is Ladies' Day. Women shoot for half price all day. The best place to buy firearms in Pensacola. Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range. Highway 29 in Car City.
Pensacola's own NFL Hall of Famer Emmitt Smith has some tips for us during this time.
This fight is up to all of us to try to help bend that curve. It's going to take teamwork. It's going to take us to stay committed, stay focused, and stay dedicated to the mission at hand, and that is to keep everyone safe. So be encouraging. Find some support. Find someone to talk to every day to encourage them to keep on continuing in this fight. And we will beat this pandemic.
JP here. Everyone here at ESPN Pensacola wants to send a shout out to our first responders and healthcare workers at this time. We know it's tough, but we appreciate the work you put day in and day out. We also want to thank our essential workers out there for helping all of us continue to live our lives as normal as possible in this time. For our community, keep rocking it. We are going to get through this. Remember, we were named the #1 strong town in America. That wasn't by accident. We have seen so many people step up and do their part, and we thank all those people for their efforts. We will be stronger for this, and together, we will beat COVID-19.
The teams, the games, the fans, the local talk. This is ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
Welcome back to Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you alongside former NFL head coach Kay Stevenson on this Wednesday afternoon. Hope you're doing well. Appreciate you tuning in to us. We're talking some football as always here. And Coach, an interesting team. Look, I think a lot of fans, a lot more fans than people realize, even down here in the South. Notre Dame fans. Joe Theismann knows about it. But anyway, Coach, when you look at Notre Dame, the question is how good is good enough? And I think when you look at this team has been so close for so many years. And after 10 years in South Bend, Brian Kelly's still there. And he's actually on the verge of some major milestones people may not realize. He's got 92 wins. He's already passed, legendary Frank Lee with 87 wins, Notre Dame's all-time list. And, of course, an unforeseen disaster, he could find himself passing, Lou Holtz at 100. And even, he's on the cusp of getting to Newt Rockne at 105 wins. Coach, we've seen this team. We know that they have been so good for so many years, but not good enough. We talk about this with the Georgia teams. We talk about, the old LSU teams and almost getting to that cusp of stepping out and making the next step. Notre Dame is a good football team. I want to make that very clear. I'm not bashing them in all this. But, Coach, when you look at it, do you see this team in South Bend being able to take that next step and win a national championship?
I don't see them winning a national championship this year. I think they're going to be in contention for a playoff spot like they normally are. They really don't have a tough schedule. And I like their quarterback coming back. They're going to have a significant advantage there with the experience and the momentum. They've got some decent talent overall as a football team. Always going to have good talent there. If they don't, then they've got a major problem with their coaching and recruiting if they don't always have talent stacked up there. As to whether it's commensurate with the better teams that they would have to beat to win a national championship, I would doubt. And even though they're a good football team, I don't know that they're going to out-talent Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, those types of teams.
Yeah, Coach, when you look at it, Ian Book, their quarterback, phenomenal talent. I mean, look, this is his senior year finally. They've gotten – look, there's no doubt. We know how good the defense has been for them as well. But you're right. When you look outside of course, this year, their schedule, they play Wisconsin. So they got an opportunity there to step up a little bit. And they play Clemson. And I think if you want to make that statement – you've got to be able to beat Clemson. And, Coach, when I look at it, I agree with you. I think this team, they're very good. I want to make that very clear. But, everybody goes back to the whole time, we go back to the old national championship game with Alabama, and they got blown out there and weren't even in the same league. But I think it's important to remember this team played Georgia last year very tough, sitting there at Georgia. Interesting enough, I just think that, Brian Kelly's done a really good job. But once again, a prestigious university like Notre Dame, you've got to be able to get over that hump and get that national championship. But you know what? We'll see what happens. It's going to be really interesting nonetheless, Coach. But that sound means it's time for us to go as usual. We didn't get to get at everything, but you know what? We'll give it our best shot tomorrow. But, Coach, it's been a pleasure.
You bet. Look forward to tomorrow, JP.
Absolutely, Coach. Appreciate it, Coach, and we appreciate our listeners out there. We'll be back same time tomorrow talking some football with you right here on Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola.
ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM and 99.1 FM. The only local station that talks sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. From Gullick and Wingo to the Sports Drive with Chad Brilliante. Plus talk football with Coach K at noon, Sports Call every Saturday. If you'd like to partner with us as an advertiser or a promotional partner, just give us a call at 262-6000.
You're listening to ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. All sports, all the time. WEBY, Milton, Pensacola.
It's First Take Your Take on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM, Channel 80, and ESPN News. I'm Jason Fitz, and we start the hour, as we always do, with headlines that you need to know. We have some breaking news here from Woj. A little bit of a Woj bomb. Zach Lowe and Adrian Wojnarowski reporting that a panel will be looking at NBA medical records. NBA team personnel expected to be asked to submit personal medical histories to a panel of physicians who would review their individual risk of serious illness due to any spread of coronavirus in the NBA's bubble environment in Orlando, sources have told ESPN. Unclear what authority, if any, that panel might have in prohibiting any personnel from attending Orlando or placing any limitations upon them. But there is some anxiety about such limitations among teams, according to sources. So one of the significant factors in establishing risk for health complications due to coronavirus is advanced age. And that's a curious thing to see how they'll handle it. Because remember, New Orleans' Alvin Gentry, 65. Mike D'Antoni of Houston, 69. Craig Popovich of San Antonio, 71. Perhaps all vulnerable to recommendations of those evaluations. So we'll see how that moves forward for the NBA. But not surprisingly at this point, we're going to start to see a little bit of a conversation about the whens, the hows, and the whys when it looks across the board of how they're going to make sure everybody is staying safe. Next up in the headlines that you need to know, we got a little bit of boxing news here. Looks like we've got a couple of fights coming. Promoter Eddie Hearn says rival world heavyweight champions Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury have agreed to the basics of a deal to fight twice in 2021. No contracts are signed yet. The first fight likely to happen in the summer of 2021. Venues dates have yet to be agreed to, while both English boxers have defenses of their titles to get through for the first two fights, or for the two fights to happen. Interesting note that they have agreed to a 2-fight deal. So this is not just one fight between them, but will instead be a fight and, of course, some sort of a rematch. And lastly, as we continue through the headlines that you need to know, amid a global wave of demonstrations against racism, the International Olympic Committee said Wednesday it would open talks that could let athletes make stronger protests at the Games. Only 5 months ago, the Olympic body strengthened its ban on political statements by specifying the gestures such as taking a knee or raising a fist on a metal podium, remain prohibited. But the IOC's public stance eased a little bit Wednesday when its president said the in-house athlete committee would, quote, explore different ways opinions could be expressed during the Games while still respecting the Olympic spirit. We're in a never-changing world. It's First Take, Your Take on ESPN Radio, ESPN News, Sirius XM, Channel 80, the ESPN app. Heck, you can even talk to your smart speakers. Just tell them to play ESPN Radio. Get you to me. I'm Jason Fitz. Presented by Progressive Insurance. All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. We've got an important guest coming up in just a few minutes to break down some of what we're going to get to next. Time for some Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Before we get to this, I do want to get some thoughts. 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. I love getting your take in, and I asked you earlier to chime in. If Major League Baseball comes back, are you all in for it? Marty in Cincinnati, what's your Major League Baseball take?
Hey, Fitzy, listen, I think avid baseball fans will forgive and forget quickly and welcome baseball back. I also think that if we're patient, what we learn from this abbreviated season is going to pay off down the line. And what I mean by that is maybe a shortened regular season, an expanded playoffs, universal DH, which I'm personally for, even though I'm kind of an old-school baseball guy. But I think particularly in major league markets, where we love our teams, Cincinnati, St. Louis, etc., I think you're going to see people welcome it back. We recognize this is a business. It always has been, always will be, no different than the NBA or NFL. So I think we'll welcome it back, and I expect better things as a result down the line.
Marty, I appreciate your take, genuinely, because part of what I'm trying to do here is talk to diehard baseball fans. Now, you're an old-school baseball guy, and baseball means something special to you, and I've spent a lot of time in Cincinnati. I know how much it means to that city, right? So I love the perspective on it, and, I respect the heck out of it. If you're willing to go back, it's your product to have and to hold, right? So if you're willing to go back to it and understand the business side of it, kudos to you. Maybe baseball fans on the whole are more invested in understanding in this than I'm giving them credit for. Let's get some more Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. And the Straight Talk comes in a couple of forms. I want to start by not speaking for, but letting you hear directly from Bubba Wallace, NASCAR driver. He was on Golic and Wingo this morning and had a very serious conversation with the guys on the morning show about NASCAR banning the Confederate flag from races. This is what Bubba Wallace said this morning on Golic and Wingo.
My typical answer was, I don't really see the Confederate flags. Obviously I do see them. They're flying high and inside the infields. And you read some of the comments of people won't come to races of African-American descent. They won't come to races simply because the Confederate flag is flying. And, you look at that, it's like, okay, we are a very selfish nation. I feel like I'll take credit. I'm very selfish, but it's not about us. It's about other people. It's about coming together and treating your neighbors like they're your brothers and sisters. We're all brothers and sisters in this world. So if it makes them feel uncomfortable, let's just take it down. Let's just get rid of it. No disrespect, but it's time to make people feel welcome. That's what we're fighting for. We don't feel welcomed in this world. The African American community does not feel welcome, and I think we can help that by removing Confederate flags. If it bothers them, then let's make that change.
That's Bubba Wallace this morning on Go Look at Wingo. Now, before everybody erupts, and I'll let you chime in on this, 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. We're going to hear a couple of different things. First and foremost, you're going to hear from First Take, and after you hear from First Take, I'm going to have a conversation about this with, I